Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In a recent video that I did entitled Secure Guest Network, I showed you how to create a guest network on its own VLAN with firewall rules and everything. In today's tutorial, I want to show you how to add a captive portal to that network using vouchers to authenticate. Let's get right to it. Okay, so now that you have a basic understanding of what a captive portal is and the purpose it's used for, let's get one configured. I'm signed into the Grandstream GCC6010. I'm over on the Network Nodes tab, and we're going to come over to the left menu and we're going to select Captive Portal. Now, we have a couple of things here. We need to create a policy. We need to create a splash page, and we need to create, for this example, vouchers or a voucher. And then once we have those three items established, we'll come back up to the Wi-Fi management and select SSIDs, and we're going to modify the guest Wi-Fi that we created in that last video. So I'm going to show you how to add the captive portal and apply it to this Wi-Fi. Now, if you don't have any Wi-Fi's created at this point, you can go ahead and add your Wi-Fi, but we'll get to that later on in the video. Okay, back to captive portal. Let's start with a policy. So we don't have any policies. Let's add our first policy by clicking the Add button. Since we're going to authenticate with vouchers, let's call the policy vouchers. And then we're going to use an internal splash page. You do have the option of using it in external page, but we're going to stick with the internal. Now, we don't have one created. We're going to be doing that in a couple minutes. Under client expiration, it says here, specify the expiration time for client network connection. But then it does say this does not take effect when credentials are used. And I believe that applies to vouchers. However, it is a required field, so we do need to add something here. So I'm going to just say 3 hours so that we can move on. Okay, under the splash page customization, here's where we're going to create our page. Now, we have the option of coming over to the left menu, but if we do that and create the page this way, we're going to lose the changes that we made here. So it's better that we just click on the drop down, and you see it gives us the option of adding the splash page. So let's do that here. And there's the internal page, and those are all the defaults. Now, you can change all of this. You see all the boxes that are ticked here. You can modify it by just checking or unchecking the boxes. So let's start with them all checked. If I click in an area, you can change that area. So we're going to leave the graphic, but if you wanted to brand this for your own personal business, you can upload your graphic here. And I believe the maximum file size is 1 meg. We're going to leave the Grandstream logo for now, but we will come down to the welcome text, and notice when I click on it, I can now edit the text here. So I'm just going to say welcome guests. If you were working, let's say with a B&B or a hotel, you could say enjoy your stay, whatever. But that's fine for now. And then I don't want any of these login options. You can log in for free, meaning they'll just log you in, or simple password or Radius server. You can also use social media logins like Facebook, X, and Google. But I don't want any of those. Let's uncheck them all. Let's add voucher. And you see now the only login option we have is log in with voucher. Okay, moving right along. If I come down here and I click on accept terms of service, we have options here we can modify. We can choose to use the default terms of use, which is what I'm going to do for this video. I could view what they are by clicking on the little page icon, but I can't modify them. If I want to modify them and add my own custom, I would choose customize terms of use and then select the plus sign to add them. Okay, that said, we could change the color of the font, but for now, we're just going to leave everything as is, give this splash page a name, and I'm going to call it voucher page. And then we'll click the blue save button, and this should redirect us back to the policy page, and there we are. And now under splash page customization, if we click the drop down, there's the page we just created. So let's select it. Under login page, we're going to leave it set to redirect to the original URL, but we do have the option of redirecting to an external page as well. We'll turn on HTTPS redirection and secure portal. This way, Grandstream will handle all the secure connections for us. under pre-authentication rules and post-authentication rules here, you can specify a couple of things. Before the user is actually authenticated with the voucher, you can choose a destination that they can be allowed to surf. So for example, if it's a B&B, you could put your website address in here, and that would be the only place they would be able to browse, but they wouldn't be able to go any further without authenticating. So in other words, they couldn't get past your website. However, post-authentication is where you want to restrict them from accessing certain sites. So if there were certain sites you don't want them to access on your network, you can add them here. For this demonstration, we're going to leave them blank. You have the option of bypassing the splash page altogether, but we're just going to go ahead and click on Save. Okay, now we have our policy created. We have our splash page created. We need to go ahead and create a voucher. So we'll come down to the Vouchers tab. And again, I'm only going to create one voucher for this demonstration. We'll click on Add, and we'll give it a name, and I'm going to call this 3-Day Pass. Okay, and as far as how many vouchers in this format I want, I'm just going to do one, but I could do multiple up to 100. Now, that said, I could also create different types of vouchers. I can create 1-day passes, 2-day passes, 7-day passes. Again, going back to the B&B or hotel example, depends. People stay for different times. So we're going to just create a 3-day pass here. I'm going to only create one for now. Max number of devices sets the number of devices allowed for the created voucher. So you could simply add 4 or 5 different devices here. For example, if a husband and wife shows up, they could have a computer, they could have a tablet, they could each have a mobile device. There's 4 devices there. So again, for demonstration purposes, let's just enter 5 devices. For byte limit, configures the total usage of each voucher, and then you can break that down even further by per voucher or by per device. We're not going to do either or any of that. Under duration, this is the duration for which the voucher can take effect. Reauthentication is required if expired. So we could say after 1 hour, expire the voucher, if they go out for the day and they're not in the hotel room, that kind of thing. But this is key here. Configures the valid time of the voucher. After the expiration, the voucher becomes invalid. So if it's a 3-day pass, we'll set this to 3. And because it's measuring in days, not minutes. And then you could set your maximum upload and download, which I would recommend. So maximum upload, we could say 5 megabits per second, and the maximum download would be 10 megabits per second. And then we can just call this Guest Pass. Guest 3-day pass. And then go ahead and click on Save. Okay, so we have our policy. We have our splash page. We have our voucher created, and I'll show you the voucher here. We can click on print. It brings it to the screen, and then I'll cancel that for now. So here's the voucher here, the valid time. And so today is the 18th, so it's a 3-day pass. So it says valid time 9/21/2025, and then the time it will expire. The duration is 1 hour, and then the max devices 0 of 5. Okay, so I'm going to copy this number here just to make it easier later when we try to log in. All right, so next thing we need to do is go up to our Wi-Fi management and adjust our existing guest Wi-Fi. So we'll go into the edit mode of the guest Wi-Fi, and we are going to change the security mode from here to open. Since we're going to be authenticating with the vouchers, that's fine. And then what we want to do here is enable the captive portal. And then we got to choose the captive portal policy that we created. And we created the policy called vouchers. And then once we go ahead and save, we've now applied that captive portal to that guest Wi-Fi. Okay, let's see if we can join the captive portal from this computer. Let's come over to Other Networks. And there's our guest Wi-Fi. And it looks like we connected, and we should get the portal pop up soon. There we go. There's our portal page, our captive portal. So it says welcome guests. That's what we modified. Log in with voucher, but we can't click that yet because we have to scroll down and accept the terms of service. And now you see it becomes available. So let's log in. And here I'm just going to paste in that voucher code, that 3-day pass from before. And we could look at it there. You could see the code. And let's go ahead and log in. Authentication succeeded. Success. Now say done. And now I should be able to browse the internet. There you go. And if we come back over to the GCC under guests, we should see this was my iPhone before when I was testing it. And it says, this is my computer here, unknown device. And you could see that I'm successfully authenticated. Okay, so now that you can see that we're connected to the captive portal, we did do the bandwidth limiting or the rate limiting. So let's go ahead and run a speed test and see. Remember, we did 10 megabits per second down and 5 up. So you can see our download speed is roughly around 11, a little 10, between 10 and 11. So that's working. And the upload speed should be somewhere around 5. And then you can go, we're hovering between 475 and 480-ish. So you can see that the rate limiting on the captive portal is working as well. And there you have it. You've now seen how to add a captive portal with voucher authentication to your existing guest Wi-Fi network. This setup not only gives you more control over who connects to your network, but it keeps the network more secure and organized at the same time. If you found any value in this walkthrough, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel, and don't forget to hit that little bell so you're notified to more videos of this sort in the future. Thanks again for watching. Take care.